What is up, my friends? You are very welcome along to Tuesday night's late night agenda. As always, it's a pleasure to be here with you. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Andoni Iraola Here We Go, and we're going to be trying to figure out what backroom staff he might want to take with him and how some of it will be straightforward, but there's a couple that could be a bit more of a headache for the Reds. We'll be also going through the news that Jurgen Klopp gave the seal of approval to FSG to appoint Andoni Iraola. We're going to be asking how important that is. We're going to talk about Ibrahim KONATE, as it's been announced today that he looks like he's pretty close to joining Real Madrid. We'll talk Denzel Dumfries. We'll talk about Lille attackers and lots more. To kick us off tonight with our first poll of the evening, we thought we'd ask you guys, has the news that Ibrahim KONATE looks like he's going to join Madrid, has that annoyed you at all? Because fair to say, Liverpool fans have been quite divided on this one today. Some, and I would probably put myself in this camp, aren't really too fussed about it, but you do have to wonder. You do have to wonder how we got to this point, and maybe was there a bit of duplicity going on. So we'll try and figure that out as the evening goes on as well. Any questions or comments you guys have, I'm here to answer them as best as I can. And of course, thank you once again for coming in to join us. Right, loads to get through. Let's get straight into it. 195 Chrysler, how are you, my friend? Said, I don't mind him joining Madrid because I don't rate him very highly, but it's the way he's gone about it. And I think that probably echoes the sentiment, mate, of how many Liverpool fans feel today. And without being really inside these situations, it's a tough one to know the extent of it. Here's what we do know. We know that Ibrahim KONATE had conversations with Real Madrid going back a while. But for me, I'm wondering, was there a number and slightly maybe over the top number that he was asking Liverpool for? And is that why Liverpool said, no, the bonuses, the structure of that, we just can't get to it? Because he maybe knew, well, if we didn't get that, then he could probably get a deal at Madrid. I don't know, but it isn't a great look for us again, is it? That, some of our title-winning defence between KONATE and Trent walking out the door and going to Real Madrid pretty much for free. So, yeah, we'll let the poll run and we'll get back to it in a little bit. But that is the first question of the evening. Riding the Storm said, thank you, Craig and Anfield Agenda community, for being here. June is such a hard month for me mentally because of my past. Watching you keeps me going. Thank you, my man. Yeah, I mean, with the news of, so many Liverpool stars, former and, having cancer, I mean, even today, John Barnes announced that he had a battle with cancer that he's thankfully gotten through and is on the other side of. And obviously Kenny today, making his announcement that he's suffering with cancer, and Kevin Keegan as well. I mean, it's a really heavy month, isn't it? And for yourself, mate, and your own struggles in the past as well. I'm glad that you found a community here that you enjoy being part of. We certainly enjoy having you. But on that, let me just read out to you the statement from King Kenny today. I'm sure you've probably seen it already, but just in case you haven't, it would be remiss of me not to bring it up. This is what Mr. Dalglish had to say. As my inadvertent social media post has indicated, I'm currently undergoing treatment for cancer. Unlike my mobile phone use, the treatment is going well. Ideally, this would have remained private because that's the way it should be, but my useless technology skills have forced my hand. I did not mean to make the matter public, so I would appreciate if the privacy of my family and myself are respected. As ever, thank you to the wonderful medical staff who've shown incredible care and discretion, not just for me, but also for many others. They are a credit to themselves. Absolute class act, as always, from Mr. Dalglish, and I know we all join in the sentiment that we hope Mr. Kenny Dalglish makes a full recovery and is back with his wonderful family, living a normal life as soon as possible. And of course to Kevin Keegan as well, another footballing icon that is battling stage 4 cancer as well. We wish him a speedy and full recovery if indeed that is possible. So yeah, just wanted to make sure that we did acknowledge that this evening, my friends, because, John Barnes, Kenny Dalglish, Kevin Keegan. Now, thankfully for John Barnes, like I've mentioned, this is cancer past tense. He was talking about it being something that his kids urged him to go get checked. He did, and thankfully he's gotten through it. So just wanted to open up with that this evening as well. Sean Troy said, hi Craig, hope you're well. If Iraola gets his backroom staff from Bournemouth, do you think Thiago or Milner will come in? I think Thiago would be a great addition. There's lots of speculation about Thiago Alcantara, and we don't know anything for certain yet. There's a few things being said today. So, Andy Hunter of The Guardian has said this: Liverpool have not made any concrete approaches to further additions to their coaching staff, despite being linked with former midfielder Thiago, who's just left Barcelona. Those moves will only be made once talks with IRAOLA reach the final stages. And of course, we got to hear we go on that from Romano earlier on. But on the backroom staff thing, it is quite interesting. I was reading a piece earlier on, I think it was in the Echo, and they said Bournemouth have been planning on keeping both Tommy Elphick and Sean Cooper at the club next season. The pair continue to be linked with Liverpool. These are two members of Iraola's backroom staff that it is assumed he would want to bring with him. Goes on to say the reporting in the Daily Echo said that the Cherries wanted to keep Elphick and Cooper to form a key part of new boss Marco Rose's staff. While it's also claimed that IRAOLA would like fitness coach Pablo de la Torre to join him at Anfield, he is a free agent as he left Bournemouth at the end of the season. So that one looks like it could be a runner, the fitness coach, which would be a really important addition to the backroom staff. But Elphick, I think, is himself a Liverpool fan, if I'm not mistaken. So the idea of coming to work at Liverpool, I think, would be one that would appeal to him hugely. Sicily, Bambolina, how are we? My husband Harry beat cancer, so will our king Kenny. Well, I'm so glad to hear that your husband came through on the other side. My own father-in-law had cancer in 3 places and thankfully is still here with us as well. But thank you for those lovely sentiments, and we're sending love to yourself and your husband Harry as well. Right, let's get going with the chat. How are we? Does my head in that Real Madrid getting players on a free, but if they don't perform, they sell them on, reaping the money? Yeah, it's a tough one on this because in one way, like I said, with KONATE, I'm not going to lose too much sleep over it, but it does grate a little bit that we're seeing players going out in the primes of their career and joining Real Madrid for nothing. From our side, I mean, and not getting any money back in, but this is the club's doing, the club allowed the contracts to get to this point, so we'll wait and see what happens on that. But there have been a few interesting things today that I wanted to draw your attention to. We'll talk about the preseason schedule and that in a while, but a couple of interesting tidbits that I found today that I think are worth discussing. Dave O.C. Coppa said that a proposal has been made to Liverpool with an opportunity to sign Ilya Zabarini from PSG. It remains to be seen if Liverpool will act on that opportunity. Now, I find this one fascinating because, of course, we know we need a centre-back with KONATE moving on. I know the club are trying to say that we might not bring one in, but surely we have to. And this would, of course, be somebody that IRAOLA has worked with previously. So it'll be interesting to see if Liverpool do push ahead with that, or if perhaps they have some other irons in the fire or some other players that they'd like to look at. Really difficult to gain any level of certainty around lots of things at the minute. I know one question that I'm going to be asked is what's going on with Diamande. I'm sure that's a question that many people in the chat are looking to find the answer to. And here's the best I can give you. It depends who you talk to. Genuinely it does. Some people that we've spoken to feel like it's more likely he ends up at PSG, but others feel like Liverpool are very much still in the mix. So in these instances, as we've said before, there's going to be a lot of battling for hearts and minds, positive PR, trying to make out like one thing is a formality, there's no chance of anybody else even having a go. And this is just intuition. I'm not saying this is a fact, but my own intuition makes me feel like maybe Akliouche is more likely, and Eli Krupi. They're 2 players that I know for a fact that PSG are very interested in. Now, of course, Liverpool could also be interested in Akliouche. So you know that Richard Hughes was over in Monaco recently. It's not a stretch to ask why was he there. Was it just to meet up with Inter Milan's representatives about Curtis Jones, or was there a few other things at play? So I think I wouldn't give up hope at all on Diamande yet, personally. My reading of the situation is it's still an evolving one, and it's obviously complicated as well by the agency situation that Diamande finds himself in, as well as the ever-rising price tag that apparently they're looking to get for him. So we'll have to wait and see on that one, but I don't think it is a done deal yet to go anywhere, whether it be us or PSG. At least that's my reading of it. Ben said, I'd be super happy to get either Diamande or Krupi along with one other forward/winger. I don't know. I'm probably wrong on this, but I just don't see the need to go in and bring in another central player. Unless we have doubts about somebody. Yes, we have an injury to Hugo Ekitike that's going to keep him out for the foreseeable. But he is going to be back. And we do have then £200 million worth of strikers. Young Will Wright, Jayden Dans. I think of all the areas that we need to recruit well in, that's one that I just don't think justifies us spending a load of money on. And from what I can gather as well in the reports today, Krupi would be more than open to the idea of going to Paris Saint-Germain. And I think Arsenal have been in the mix there as well for him. But honestly, I don't really know of much concrete stuff for him in Liverpool that I know of anyway. I'm not saying maybe others don't have information, but there's nothing there for me. Axel Media said, Craig, are you concerned about the state of the squad? We need quality all over, new types of players to fit the new boss's system, or can he convert what we have? It's a really good question, and I think the answer probably lies in a little bit of both. What we've seen with Andoni Iraola throughout his time at Bournemouth is that he's more than capable of going again, losing players going again, and proving players on the training ground. That is something that we didn't see enough of for me with Arne Slot, but I absolutely think we'll see more of with him. That being said, we want to be competitive, right? We want Liverpool to get back up there, challenging for Premier League titles and European honour. So I do think we'll see quite a bit of activity. There's one name in particular that is concerning me the most from a Liverpool perspective at this point, and I don't know if I have any reason to be concerned about it, but the Dominic Szoboszlai situation just feels like it's one that Liverpool need to get sorted quickly. You know, whether it's they tie him down to a new deal or whether they know maybe he has eyes of going elsewhere. I don't know, but that's a future headache that's coming, and I want us to be proactive about it because he's the one for me that I'd be the most concerned about if he was to leave this Liverpool squad. Now, again, there's nothing to suggest that there is an imminent departure, but we're into that, awkward period now of 2 years to go on his contract, and we can't be hanging around and dragging this on. We need to get it sorted. And I don't know if the club have maybe dug a little bit of a hole for themselves here with the money that they've given out to the likes of Gravenberch and Gakpo, because with all due respect to those two players, I think Dominic Szoboszlai is in a different league. So if he sees what they're getting, I'm concerned that maybe what he's going to be asking might be something that Liverpool aren't comfortable with. Maybe I'm just blowing this out of all proportion, but it's just a concern that I have at the minute. Paddy Wacker said, we don't have depth, Craig. Remember, this is a bigger club, maybe 3 games in 10 days. That's my biggest concern. Depth. That's a really fair point. Depth is a key concern for us. And what we seen last summer, and to be fair, we've discussed this all the way throughout the year, was nobody really said we didn't bring in good players. We just didn't do enough. It felt like Liverpool had done 60-70% of the work. So yes, we need to get a centre-back. We need to get a right-back. I would argue we should sell Costas, get a left-back. These are things that you've heard me saying for quite a while now. But it will be interesting to see quite how much improvement Iraola can get from people on the training ground. And I read something earlier on today that gave a lovely insight into it. And this was from a chat he had with Guillaume Balaguer and Donny Iraola previously. You've probably seen this going around social media today. But he was asked by Guillaume Balaguer where football is going. And I found his answer fascinating. Let me read it out to you. So this was his response to Guillaume Balaguer. He said, players do not demand freedom. They demand structure from their coaches. It is that structure they feel free and can make their own decisions from. As coaches, we cannot arrive somewhere and tell everybody, do whatever you want, take the ball wherever you want. If you do that after 30 minutes, they'd be angry at us. They want to show them the way. They demand organisation, information, different options, and thorough preparations for every game. They're asking us to study a lot. Our job is to put the players in the best possible scenario to shine. With that preparation in their armour, they can then make informed decisions and make the difference on the pitch. There are different styles and different ways to play, but all of them require structure, study, thought, and hard work. And also looking a little bit more into Andoni Iraola's background, I didn't know that he'd studied law for 3 years as well, and then decided to go and fully focus on football. So we're obviously talking about a very deep-thinking, articulate man who has improved every club he's been at. Now, I'm not going to be able to say anything to you that might calm down some of the fears that you have, because they're rational fears. The step up to this job is a big step up. And whether it was himself, whether it was Sebastian Hoeneß, whether it was even Xabi Alonso, there was always going to be an inherent risk involved. But from what I can gauge from Liverpool fans over the last couple of days is they're more willing, and I'm certainly more willing, to allow some teething problems when you feel like, okay, this is an actual fresh start. So that's kind of where I'm at with them. Any questions that you guys have, throw them in, and I will do my best. But I have lots and lots of stuff to get through this evening. Alexander said Kenan Yildiz will be perfect for Liverpool. He can play left wing and Rio can play right wing. If we can get Yan Diamonde, Rio can play left wing and Yildiz centre forward. Now, I've not seen anything concrete linking us to Kenan Yildiz, but I like him. We've had conversations about him here on the channel going back maybe 18 months. And look, it's really tough at the minute to talk about anything with any level of certainty, because the club's focus right now is getting the IRAOLA deal tied up and over the line. Excuse me. And we do have the here we go on that one. But it's got to be busy. You know, we can't throw him under the bus by sending him in ill-prepared to the new season. He needs to be backed, and he needs to be backed to finish the job that was started last summer. So what that entails, who he's going to want to keep, who he's going to want to go, I think we're going to have to be a little bit patient on that one. Hi Craig, in late, what have I missed about Slot? Well, thank you, Paul, for 8 months with us as a member, firstly, mate, and let me get to that piece of information that you're looking for. So the reports today suggested that there is a meeting scheduled between AC Milan and Arne Slot this Wednesday. Now, this was news that kind of came out yesterday evening, or maybe even a day or two before, that Slot was a target for AC Milan. Obviously, they removed their head coach and sporting director and an executive. And I've always said to you guys, I think he would be a good fit for Serie A as a coach. So let's wait and see what happens. There was another thing I wanted to go through, actually. So yeah, Jan Fjorthoff gave a very interesting bit of information. And he said Liverpool talked to Jurgen Klopp to get input into who their next manager should be. And that makes sense. What talked to Klopp and what makes sense, what they were told, I have no idea. Now, I seen somebody in the chat before we go live say the Klopp backed Slot as well. I don't think he backed him to the same extent we're talking about here. What Jurgen did was make sure the handover was smooth and make sure that Liverpool fans tried to get behind Arne from day one. But I don't think he had any input into the decision to go with Arne Slot. Whereas in this instance here, it seems like FSG had a proper conversation with him about what they think, what he thinks, who could be a good fit. And, you know, he's been praising IRAOLA for years and talked about IRAOLA's Bournemouth team being a proper team, a proper well-coached team. So it seems like he's got a glowing reference there from Jurgen if we're reading between the lines on it. And the appointment is, well, it's imminent at this point. So, yeah, exciting times. But let's give you the here we go that we got earlier on it, because it's worth reading it out because it's always fun to hear. Breaking, Liverpool reach agreement in principle to appoint Andoni Iraola as new manager. Here we go. Exclusive story from Saturday, 100% confirmed. Arne Slot left and Iraola will lead the Liverpool project as expected. Talks have advanced over the last 48 hours. Deal in place. And he's going to have to come in and get cracking straight away, because obviously the World Cup is coming up and he's going to have a shorter pre-season, but he's also going to have to make sure that the recruitment is lined up and ready to go and he's aware of who's coming in so that he can work on his tactical setups, in and out of possession, all the things that they'll be trying to get right before the season. Harry said Klopp deliberately excluded himself from any decisions on his successor. Yeah, that's kind of my recollection of it as well, my man. And rightly so. You know, he didn't want to feel like he was still casting a shadow over the club. But it is. I'm actually a bit more relieved to hear that they have reached out and spoke to Jurgen this time, because you can never get enough brain power involved in these type of things. And, you know, the club and FSG clearly have huge faith in Jurgen Klopp and belief in his words and his ability to spot a good coach. So I think fair play to them for reaching out. Now, I do wonder, remember Nicholas Bieber was talking about where John W. Henry's yacht and that was, and at one point I think it was just off Majorca. So maybe that is where they met. I don't know, but it's good to see that they checked in with Jurgen for me anyway. I think that is a positive. Nathan said, just want to say happy Men's Mental Health Month. Thank you, Nathan. Lovely of you to highlight it, my man. Appreciate you as well. And same to you, my friend. Mr. Cox Wilkins, how are we? Always a pleasure, sir. Sorry for asking, but I don't know what imprintable means. Obviously, with me being dyslexic, I don't understand what in principle means. Oh, in theory, Eddie. So in principle means like without any hiccups, or, you know, everything has been agreed. The fine details still have to be sorted out. So that's what it means. You know, the I's still have to be dotted, the T's still have to be crossed. Yeah, but it's pretty much a formality at this point, my man. So yeah, that's what he means by in principle. You always have, until the contract's signed and everything's lodged. You know, this is the type of language that usually gets used just to make sure, because once those contracts are signed and everything is, you know, lodged with the Premier League and stuff, then it becomes official. So now we've even got David Ornstein saying Liverpool reached verbal agreement with Andoni Iraola to become head coach, set to sign a 2-year contract. Interesting. Same as the deals that he had at Bournemouth, and he wants Pablo De La Torre, Tommy Elphick, Sean Cooper, Tom Webber on staff. Liverpool plan to present the 43-year-old by the end of the week. So looks like this one has gotten to the point now where it is over the line. And yeah, Liverpool looking to get him appointed by the end of the week. And it'll be fascinating to hear that first press conference, and very much looking forward to it. So thank you for sending me that one on. So a little bit of an update. Sorry, before we get back into the footy talk. We had a tiny little technical hitch in the studio, which meant we had to order something that will correct it, a little part that we need. So unfortunately, we won't be able to start streaming from there till Monday. It's only a couple of days, but I just wanted to let you know about it, because obviously tomorrow was due to be launch day, but we've had to put it back to Monday as we await this small little part. Always the way, but sure, look, these things never go smoothly, do they? So happy enough with that. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up on it. This just in. Apparently, Real Madrid are interested in Alexis McAllister. Now, I've been talking about this for a while, and I said it to you guys last summer. It always felt to me, and the noises that I was hearing suggested that McAllister could be sold. Now, I don't know how interested they really are. Maybe they've looked at the midfielder market and feel like maybe they can't get to the numbers that Chelsea would want for Enzo Fernandez, and maybe they think McAllister could be a more affordable option for them. I don't know. It's early days, but Anfield Index reported it, and I think they credited Dario Ole, or one of the Spanish outlets, with it. So just a heads up on that one as well. So I guess the next question I'm going to have is, if he was to be sold, or if he was to even be just valued by Liverpool, what do you guys think would be the valuation? For you, what do you think for Maka? I'll give it a go, sure. Well, we're playing the game. So he's got 2 years to go. I think he's 27 or 28. I think a year ago, I probably would have valued him a little bit higher. And not just because he's a year long in his contract. I mean, I think his form has dipped a bit. I'm probably somewhere in the 60 to 70 bracket, in my mind. That's kind of where my head's at in it. 60 to 70 million pound, somewhere in that bracket. Oh, Bilal, you're back in again. Dude, I told you. I don't read out cheap super chats. Bilal, stop being a cheapskate, dude. I know, it must be tough in the trolling world now, Bilal. If you need a handball, if you need a few bobber I'll help you out, Bilal. But yeah, I don't know, Bilal, what people have done to hurt you. mate, but you've got all my sympathies and love, bro. If you need a hug or anything like that, I'm always here, Bilal. Don't worry. But stop cheaping out on the super chats, mate. If you're going to try and abuse me, I told you before, I'm not reading them out unless it's a tenner at least. And I think that's fair, Bilal. You know, we know each other at this point. I know you love me, really, dude. I know you do. Deep down, you wouldn't be here all the time unless you were a little bit Craig curious. I was thinking about the round table. What a prime peak media manipulation move that was. The most insane thing they pulled off. Do you know what I'd like to know? I'd like to know how the conversation went to get them to that conclusion. You know? Who came up with it? Who thought it was a good idea? And then who came up with the format and the bullshit way they did it? It just feels... It feels... I don't know how to phrase this other than it feels very much your da. You know, that kind of vibe. Like, it was just, oh yeah, this is great. Oh yeah, this will go down well. Sure, this will stop the descent, lads. Yeah, it's fair to say that didn't have the impact that they'd hoped for. Nessie, I'm good. I'm good, my friend. I'm good. Didn't get any sleep at all last night, unfortunately. You know when you're at the tail end of a cold or something and you get a tickly cough? I just couldn't settle down last night, so I've had no sleep. I'm going on instinct and adrenaline at this point, but we're still here, you know, so all good, all good. Right, minimum 65 million for Macca, said Raekwon, the chef, excuse me. You only complain about Bilal because he's an Arabic name. Or it could be that he said I lock up children in my basement. You really are a thick fuck, aren't you? Like, I don't care if he's got an Arabic name. He's more than welcome in here. I talk to people with Arabic names every day. But I don't talk to people who accuse me of raping children and hiding them in a basement. That's the problem that I have there. It's not too hard to figure out. Bilal just... I don't know. I think Bilal wants to shag me, to be honest with you. You know? I do. At this point, I just think Bilal wants a piece of this tasty ass. And I'm out of his league, quite frankly, mate. And religion doesn't come into it in any way. I'm a 10, you know, and 10s don't deal. You know, I want a sugar daddy. I want somebody to come in and shower me in money, not $1.99 cheap super chats. That's not what Craig wants. You know, I've earned better than that, you know. See, as you can see, I'm in good form and you're not going to drag me down into any of this kind of nonsense. So, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Feel free to knock one out, Bilal. Do you know what I mean? Let me help you, bro. Bilal, that's for you, bro. That's for you. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself, Bilal. Right. Daniel said, been loving the extra channel. Great work. Thank you. Absolutely brilliant video on there to kick us off yesterday from Lewis as well, which is absolutely flying. Really happy for the lad. Brilliant video. So yeah. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. And I hope you guys do enjoy it. We've got lots of stuff coming up. There's another video coming up from Lewis tomorrow on there. We're going to have a podcast with myself, Bence, and Lewis being recorded on Thursday. And some clips of that will go up on the extra channel. And then the full podcast will, of course, go up on the Anfield Agenda Spotify. And Bilal, the good news for you is it will be video. So have the tissues ready, Bilal. It's all good, bro. I'm here to help. I'm here to help. Eddie said, thank you, mate. I'm just a bit embarrassed. Eddie, you've nothing to be embarrassed about here. You're amongst friends, sir. And if it wasn't for autocorrect and stuff, Eddie, you should see the state of some of the things I write. Yeah. You see, Bilal actually, instead of drilling the kids in the basement, what I'd actually have to do is drill a basement. Because I don't have a basement. They're not a big thing over here, really, Bilal. So I'll have to bow down to your basement dungeon knowledge on that one. And you sound like you've been locked up in a few over the years, dude. But I can't think what else makes you that angry. I'd sell him 65 to 70 million and get a world-class CDM. So I'd sell him as well if the right offer came in. I think we need a refresh in midfield. And I think him being the most senior of the midfielders that gets regular action, I think if the right offer came in around the kind of 65, 70 mil mark, Jacko, that you've mentioned, I'd take it. I would. if you go out there and you reinvest that into, and I'm throwing names out here, maybe Wharton, or I know over the last 48 hours we've seen Alex Scott's name being mentioned, but I do think when we're going to be playing such a high intensity brand again, at the very least I have some questions about Alexis McAllister's engine compared to previous years. So, if the right offer came in and it was something the club thought could help us reinvest and build out, I wouldn't be against it. But I also really like Alexis McAllister, and I wouldn't be rushing him out the door. But I've never really been able to shake the interview his dad gave. Something in that interview just stood out to me as almost a pre-warning in the way it was worded. And it was something like, we haven't spoken publicly yet with any other clubs out of respect for the fans here. Now, that could have just been a translational thing, but we haven't spoken publicly. Was it just, it sat in my mind, and just had me thinking, because even Mac, if I remember, talked about maybe not knowing what the future is. Then there was a post at one point, I think, saying maybe it's okay, after having a kid, maybe it's okay to be a bit selfish and stuff like that. So if it's something that he wants, I'm always of the mindset that if a player wants to move away, if the club can get the number they want, happy days. You don't want, and I'm not saying Macca doesn't want to be here, by the way. I'm not trying to say that because I don't know. But you don't want players that aren't fully invested in, especially if you are going to be playing that brand of football that is going to take that buy-in. It's going to take the effort of everyone out there. And that, from something, again, to link it to Michael Edwards, he's well aware that the brand of football that Jurgen played and the brand of football that Liverpool want to get back to, that needs workhorses. It does. It needs people with engines and legs and energy and robustness. And these are all things that usually come along with youth. So I think if there's a refresh maybe to a 23, 24-year-old midfielder, that could make some sense. But again, we are getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. Jules said, we need to offer extensions to players and give them a deadline after they are sold. Need to be ruthless. To go back to that donkey a few minutes ago who said that I didn't like Bilal because his name was Arabic or something. See, people like him are the actual problem, because there will be people who get genuine racism because they're from another part of the world. But those type of lazy assumptions undermine the people who are actually going to be suffering. So what I would say to you is, stop trying to be offended all the time and actually save it for the people who really do need your support. Because, there are people out there that are going to be obviously mistreated because of the colour of their skin or where they come from. It'll never happen here on Anfield Agenda, but they need your support, and they don't need the boy who cried wolf, and they don't need people getting perpetually offended by everything and looking for stuff that isn't there. It's a really lazy take. What do we do? Do we think Salah will change his mind? I don't, Anthony, no. And nor do I think deep down Edwards would really want him to change his mind. Because that's... See? We here, bro. I'll always win them round. Nah, Bilal, honestly, I don't know if this is a different account or somebody else. Honestly, don't know. But come in and have a bit of fun with us, bro. It's far easier. You know what I mean? Come in and have a bit of fun with us, mate. We love a good laugh on here. And I really hope that is proper Bilal account, because I don't like falling out with anyone, dude. Come in and have a laugh with us and get to know our community. I promise you, you'll enjoy yourself. Thundercats Litterbox. Sell Macca, not the profile IRAOLA needs. We basically need the equivalent of a Szoboszlai DM. Our midfield lacks physicality outside of Szoboszlai. We need a beast. Is anybody else a little bit concerned by the Szoboszlai situation? I don't know if I've any reason to be, but he's the one that worries me if we don't get the extension, because I really, really, really rate him as a footballer. I really, really do. And it would be heartbreaking if Liverpool were to lose him. So I really hope the club get cracking on that one. I remember the lads at I think it was LFC Transfer Room. There was an article the other day from themselves saying that early talks have started there, and fingers crossed they progress. I know that, by the way, to any trolls. Just like, there's no point in wasting your time and our time. You come in, say something shitty, you get banned. It's the end of it. I promise you, I mean this. Even if you're not really a fan of me, get to know the people in our chat, because it'll enhance your evenings. It'll make you have a bit more fun. It'll put a smile on your face, and you'll get to experience what I get to experience, which is incredible people every night coming in to share our joys, to share sorrows, to help each other. Help each other. Think of this as a big self-help group, because that's pretty much what I do as well. So always, to anybody out there, come in and be part of it. You're more than welcome in. Shano said, prayers for Sir Kenny and Kevin. Fuck cancer is my message. Absolutely, sir. Absolutely agree with you. Lost my cousin too young, and a few months ago, and one of my best friends lost his mum too young. So I had a concern last year. The concern that thankfully ended up being nothing. But I remember the terror, Shane, that I felt at that moment. And it brought me back to the battle that we had when my father-in-law had throat cancer, esophageal cancer, liver cancer. And I know the impact it's had on him, and even the survival guilt that he felt, because other people who've been getting treatment at the same time passed away and stuff, younger people as well. And it is just a horrible, horrible disease. Now, thankfully, research and treatments are improving all the time. But yeah, absolute class act as always, Shane. And again, sending all our love to Kenny Dalglish and Mr. Kevin Keegan as well. Ryan, might sound dumb, but what is the difference between head coach and manager role? Also, be a class signing at Thiago's assistant, exciting times. There's no such thing as a dumb question, mate. There's no such thing. We all come into football and are absorbed into football in different ways, at different levels, with different knowledge. No problem. So I'll do my best to explain the difference to you. The olden day format would be a manager who not only oversees the first team action, the reserve team, and all that kind of stuff, but would have a take on transfers, and would be over most aspects of a football club. But as football clubs have become bigger, more financial juggernauts, and extra roles have crept in because of social media stuff, player intermediaries, all this other kind of stuff, it became all consuming for coaches or managers, at that point. So the European model started to come in more and more. And the European model is a structure that there's a sporting director at the top of the footballing structure. And that sporting director sets the football philosophy for the club. So when you're bringing in players to play for the 14s, 16s, 18s, all the way through, you're bringing them in with a mind to the Liverpool way or the United way or the Chelsea way or whatever club it is. And they're supposed to be a constant at the club. So if a head coach, in our case Arne Slot, if that doesn't work out, well, let's say when Kloppo left. When Klopp left, a lot of stuff in and around him left as well. And the club were left kind of with big holes to fill. The idea behind the sporting director and a head coach is that you can take out a head coach, put in another head coach, and all that changes is the first team action and stuff in and around there. It doesn't have as big a knock-on impact. Now, what also happens is, over time, Mikel Arteta is a very good example of this. He came into Arsenal as a head coach, but because he had success and Kroenkes and the board at Arsenal seen that he was sending the club in the right direction, he then became a manager. He had more say in transfers, he had more say in stuff like that. That's the easiest way of explaining the differences. A head coach doesn't really have a seat at the table when it comes to bigger decisions. He might have an input to it, but over time then, as your success becomes more apparent to the owners and to the executives, you get a little bit more power. So a head coach is basically not having as much responsibility outside of the coaching setup. Somebody should check that guy's basement. I wish I had a basement. Do you know, I'd love to have a basement. That'd be great. Could lash a studio in there. But yeah, no basements here, Kieran. And thank you, bro, for 13 months with us as well. Mello said, happy to be here as a new subscriber, Craig, and I've been a Liverpool fan my entire life. Well, welcome in, my friend. Just a small correction. There's a C at the start of the name, not a G. My name's Craig. It's C-R-A-I-G. But don't worry. It's no biggie. I'm just giving you a heads up. Rocky said, hey Craig, see a new interview with Semenyo today. He said IRAOLA would have 3-4 days a week of running. Some weeks 0 days off. Hope you're keeping well. I think I've seen the same interview, and yeah, it's great. I've seen some other players as well talking about the fact that he works them really, really hard. And the Pablo De La Torre guy that he wants to bring in with him, and looks like he is bringing in with him, he will be his guy to get them fit. And you've seen they're always constantly at the top of the running charts, Bournemouth. And there was actually a really interesting stat today that I wanted to discuss on Bournemouth. And this was posted by The Athletic. So it said, no team have taken more shots after turning over possession in the attacking third since Andoni Iraola's arrival. A sign of their adventure to chase the ball up the pitch and with the speed with which they attack. So this isn't rocket science, although getting the press right is. The theory is, the higher up the pitch you win the ball, the less distance between you and the opponent's goal. It is very much a Marcelo Bielsa way of thinking, and he is a disciple of Bielsa's, having been coached by him at Athletic Club Bilbao. But the question everybody's asking is, can that translate into a top club like Liverpool? Can Iraola take that step up? Well, you'll never know till you take that leap of faith in him. But what we see here is Bournemouth, more than any other team, turned over possession more in the final third, or one possession is probably a better way of doing it. So Bournemouth topped the chart. So the chart was Bournemouth frequently turned high pressing into shots under Iraola. Recoveries in the final third leading to shots, Premier League since 23-24. And in that time period, from 23-24 up to now, Bournemouth have one possession that has led to a shot on goal 147 times. Second on the list were Chelsea, 132. Third on the list, Manchester City, 131. Then came Liverpool, 129. So that is astounding to me, that Bournemouth were getting more shots from winning the ball back high up the pitch than anybody else in the Premier League. To me, that is a very good omen of what we can expect under Andoni Iraola at Liverpool. Right, let's check out this poll. So we'd asked you guys, does it annoy you that Ibrahima Konate looks like he's joining Real Madrid? We are about 50 votes shy of 4,000, and then I'll knock it on the head. Right, where was I? I think I've just want to make sure I haven't missed one. One sec. Done Shano's. I've done Ryan's. Done that one. Done Rocky's. This one. Hi Craig. Realistically, where do you think we'll finish next season in the Premier League and the Champions League? Who do you think will win the Premier League, and who will be our new vice captain? It's so hard to answer that question now, but I can tell you what my aims are for Andoni Iraola next year. I'm not going to say a top 4 finish, because I think we should be looking at a top 3 finish. So top 3 finish. The Champions League is, at the best of times, very difficult to predict the winner of. Obviously, in recent years, the answer to the question has been Paris Saint-Germain. But what I'm hoping is that even if we do have a stumbling start, by the time we get to the knockout stages of the Champions League, that he has us right. And he has us understanding the system and the players well drilled in it. Because that's when the trophies are won. Like, look at, and I said this last night, look at Paris Saint-Germain and look at their last 2 seasons. They didn't finish in the top 8 of the Champions League once, but they went on to win it, even though they had to play an extra round of games both times. So sometimes it isn't about how you start these things, it's how you finish them. And when you get to the knockout stages, that's when it really starts. Because a club like Liverpool in the Champions League, should never really be concerned about not getting through that league phase into the knockout phase. But we got to peak in that phase and get it right. So if he can do that, then maybe we can see about a Champions League or not. But right now, for me, making sure he's tucked into the top four comfortably and a decent cup run or two. I think that is a fair gauge of what I think we should be expecting. It's impossible to give you a more in-depth answer without knowing so many things. What we have at the minute is a great unknown, because we've seen Marco Silva today has left Fulham. So they're going to have to bring in a new head coach. We've got Crystal Palace, who'll need a new head coach. Bournemouth have a new head coach in Marco Rose. Chelsea have a new head coach in Xabi Alonso. Liverpool are having a new head coach in Andoni Iraola. Chelsea, I've mentioned with Alonso. City, Maresca. So there's a lot of change in the league right now, and it's very difficult to figure out which clubs are best positioned with their new coaches to do well. I find it fascinating, though, that there is such a churn of coaches at the minute in the Premier League, where Arteta is like the most longevity, basically, of the top clubs there. It's going to be a very, very, very interesting campaign. Matthew said, "Hi Craig, hope you and your family are well. Who do you realistically think is signed at Liverpool by the time the window shuts? Love the channel." I think we get Diamonde, but that isn't based off anything inside. This isn't Craig saying I have information. I just have a gut feeling about it that we'll get it done. I can't rule out PSG being in the mix seriously, but something just tells me that we've done the hard yards on this one, and we've put a lot of focus into this deal. So I think he comes in. I don't buy that we're not getting a centre-back thing. I don't buy that for 1 second. I think we will, but it might not be something that we see done quickly. We might need to see how the market looks, maybe what happens with Gomez or what interest is there. Right back fascinates me, though. That is one right now that I think we have to get right. You know, it seems as if Dumfries could be on his way to Real Madrid, as per many reports today. Maybe, I guess, to replace Carvajal in there. But, you know, what that means for Trent, I don't know. So I find that fascinating. Left side, my belief is that Costa should be sold. Because if we don't sell him, well, the club have to do one of two things. Renew him or let him go for free in a year. So at the very best, we're probably just kicking the headache down the road a year. And I would rather get any money we could in and get somebody who the club want for the long term. Midfield is sort of the unknown, though, because if you look at it, we need a DM. What does a DM look like for Iraola? Is it going to be a Sangar, somebody like that? And also, who are we going to lose? What's happening with Curtis Jones? Is there any change there? Is he still looking like he's going to Milan? This Alexis McAllister Real Madrid interest, will that be backed up with a bid? So yeah, some moving pieces there. And then, of course, in the goalkeeping department, what we know for certain now is that Alisson Becker is staying. That's being reported far and wide now. But still a little bit of uncertainty around Mamardashvili and what might happen with that one. I'm probably on my own on this, but I keep saying I can't see us buying a striker. I just can't. I think it's just creating a headache. And if we were to buy one, I think we're just taking away money from another area that we could probably do it, investing more in. So that's kind of where my head's at with the window. If you want numbers from me, I want 3 starting 11 players, 4 squad players is probably where I think we need to be, depending on outgoings. And there's nothing wrong with looking at some of the free transfer markets for a couple of potential options out there if there's any of the club feel could be a natural fit. Top 5 CDMs you'd like Liverpool to target? Oh, do you know what, mate? I could sit here, Raekwon, and reel off names and pretend to be a hipster and pretend I know these lads inside out. Truth is, I don't really. I've know a limited amount of Sangar, but really do like the way that team performs. Angelo Stiller has always been somebody that's been interesting, but I've never really seen concrete levels of interest from Liverpool. Boubacar Kamara from Aston Villa has been a name that has been mentioned in and around Liverpool for at least 18 months, but I don't know if anything changes in that regard. Obviously, there is Lamine Kamara as well from Monaco. And then maybe you're looking around, I don't know, in the Premier League. I mean, ideally, I'd love somebody like an Elliot Anderson. I know he's not, he can operate in the 8, but I'd like him, somebody physical like that at the base of the midfield. But there would definitely be people who can give you a better answer in the D. Other positions, far more qualified or far more knowledgeable for me to be able to reel off names for you. But DM, it's a tough one. You know, it's a tough one because we have to keep an eye on the homegrown stuff, as we've said before. At this minute in time, there is one non-homegrown spot in the squad or one overseas spot. That could change if certain players move on. But yeah, I'm going to have to be honest and say that's the position where I'm probably not going to be as helpful to you as other people with regards to reeling off a list of names. Somebody asked me earlier on, I forgot to answer, about vice captain. Sorry, let me just, who was it asked me about that? It was Imantia. Sorry, mate, I forgot the vice captain part. Surely Szoboszlai, right? It feels like the natural one for me, Dominic Szoboszlai. Is tomorrow you're moving into the new studio? I was just saying, Peter, we have a very, very small technical hiccup. We need to order a little part, so we won't have that until later in the week. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to move into it till Monday. But look, we always expected a few little delays along the way, and it's no biggie. So unfortunately, yeah, it'll be Monday now. Rick Maddock, how are we, dude? Said, sorry, but I'm late to the whole IRAOLA situation, but you are truly convinced in IRAOLA. I'm not sure right now. My appointment now absolutely must be the right one. Oh, no, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm 100% convinced. That would be unfair, and I think I'd be just jumping on the bandwagon. The way I look at Andoni Iraola is it's a very understandable appointment. It's a credible appointment, but I was honest about this when I was saying that we should move on from Slot. Whoever the next appointment was going to be, there was always going to be some risk involved in it. But it's about, I guess, mitigating as much of that risk as possible. And what we do know of Andoni Iraola is he always improves players. He has had the heart and soul of his team ripped out through sales at Bournemouth and always found ways to go again, to improve players. And that is something that we didn't see enough of under Arne, was the improvement of players that are here. And I think we will get that with Iraola. I also think we will enjoy the brand of football. But there is, of course, an obvious question about what happens when you're playing European football and weekend football in the Premier League. But that's down to the boys to make sure that he has a squad that can cope with what he's going to ask of them. And these conversations will be happening. So if we got this one wrong, and please, hopefully we get it right. But if it got wrong, yeah, you're into the kind of, are we going into the circle? Are we starting to go into this pattern now of other clubs? So it is important that this one's done right and we get it right. But there is no guarantees for me. If Luis Enrique could join, brilliant. But he's going to stay at PSG. Outside of that, anybody who we appointed was going to have some risk involved. There's also the other aspect of it where you ask yourself, is this a convenient appointment for Richard Hughes? Because he's somebody that Richard Hughes knows. And that could be a plus or a negative. And I don't really know the answer to it. But I'm comfortable with Andoni Iraola. And I'm certainly going to get behind him because I want him to succeed. We all love an underdog story. And Andoni Iraola has earned his way to this job. From the great work he did at Rayo Vallecano, from the work he's done at Bournemouth. And that started, and it wasn't a success straight away. It took him time at Bournemouth, but he got there. And that's where I'm at. I'm willing to give him a bit of time because I'm not as unrealistic as people think I am. If I see improvement, I'll be happy. Same where I was with Jurgen. So that's the most honest I can be about it, dude. So, 53% of you guys said it doesn't annoy you at all that KONATE is going to Madrid, or looks like he's going to Madrid, and 47% said it does. Right, so here's one for you. So, would you sell Maka for the right number? Now, I don't want to throw a number out there because I'd be just plucking one out of thin air. But let's say it's a number that the club are comfortable with. Would you sell Alexis McAllister? I would. And I explained why earlier on. And it has nothing to do with not liking him, because I really, really do like him. If you've seen our studio, you'll see I have a signed Alexis McAllister Argentina shirt in there. Love the guy. Liked him before he even came to Liverpool. But I know what is going to be demanded of the midfield under IRAOLA. And if there's any doubts about Maka's legs or his engine, I think we need to err on the side of caution. And then there's the international thing. And every time we have players who go off on international duty, it seems to be that the ones that represent Colombia, Argentina, Brazil, they're the last ones back. And there's always some question marks about them going to be available for the first game back after an international break, because they've had to travel late, but also they've had to travel really long to get back. And that's something over the years that I've noticed we've had issues with Maka on. So I have that in my mind as well. So for me, I would be in the yes camp. And it's something I've also been expecting over the last year, that this was a summer that I thought we would maybe be open to it. Now, I've no idea how Liverpool will react to this. Maybe Liverpool say absolutely not, no interest in selling him, we plan to renegotiate. But when you have his dad saying that there's been yet no conversations with the club about a negotiation from to stay, does that tell you something as well? Scar Penguin said, American bias, Tyler Adams is a workhorse, might not be the big signing, but was top in tackles a couple of seasons ago. Well, we do know that Andoni Iraola will know all about him, right? And there's nothing wrong with having a bit of national bias, mate. I've been like that with Kelleher and a few others as well. But truth is, I don't know. I don't know if he'd be good enough or not. But Iraola would. And that is, the Premier League tried and tested part here for me is big. It is big. Because if a coach comes in from another league, it does take them a while to understand and get used to the physicality of the Premier League. And Iraola has plenty of experience now in the Premier League. So he'll know what he needs, and he'll know what attributes he wants for a system. And the system will be key here. The system will be king. Think about it, it's like Klopp again. This system, buying into what he wants and executing it, is going to be more important than any individuals. Now, you want good individuals, but the system is the key here. Right, so, as you guys have just said in the chat, Fabrizio Romano, exclusive. Denzel Dumfries to Real Madrid. Here we go. Deal in place and all agreed with the Dutch right back to join Real Madrid from Inter. Spanish club will trigger his €20 million release clause. Dumfries has accepted Madrid. Deal closed tonight and formal steps to follow. So, what does this mean? Well, it means a couple of things. It means Inter Milan now have a little bit more cash in the bank and a little bit more scope to go after Palestra, who they've been looking at for quite a while. Now, what does this mean for Liverpool? I don't know. I don't know what this means for Liverpool, because I don't know if our interest died away when Arne Slot left. But Dumfries was somebody that was mentioned around Liverpool. But I'm fine on this one. Absolutely, it doesn't bother me in the slightest he's going there. But we do need to make sure that we have our ducks in a row, lined up and ready to go for a right back. And Liverpool would have been all over this, and Liverpool would have known what was happening. So, yeah, let's wait and see. It means they're thinking Trent out the door. Well, I don't know what the situation is with Carvajal's contract, but is his contract not up at Madrid? Or am I wrong on that? Because if Danny Carvajal's contract was up, then this just gives Madrid some more cover as well. It gives them another option. Trent is screwed if he wasn't already. Look, again, I don't mean this to sound callous, but that's a whole lot of Trent's problem. Remember why he said he went over there? Because he's backing himself. And he wants to be the best right back, and he wants to win a Ballon d'Or. Well, if you can't get into the team, that's on you. So let him lie in the bed that he's made. Craig o'clock down said, Craig, I love seeing you laugh the trolls off. I'd love to see Isak, Rio, and Ekitike on the field together. Can we make that happen? I'm sure we will see them up top. At one point, I could see a world where maybe Rio's on the right and Ekitike's off to the left. And yeah, the troll thing, I just thought I'd revisit how I interact with trolls. Rather than getting angry at it and getting offended by it, maybe this is the better approach. But it also depends on my mindset, and I have to be in a good headspace to be able to do that. And right now I'm feeling in a good place. So it's easier to deal with them, and I don't take it to heart. So yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, my man. This one. Hey Craig, just wanted to say it was a great stream last night, full of kindness and a ton of compassion. Oh, thank you, man. Do you know what? I said this to Connor earlier on. Last night was probably my favourite stream in the last 3 months anyway. And sometimes you wonder, will these things ever make it out into the world? Because every time I say something OTT, it makes it out there. Every time there's something that people can spread around to mock the channel, makes it out there. But I can't lie and say I didn't wonder whether moments like last night need to be pushed out more. Because I think that's a far fairer reflection of our channel and our community. And I came off that stream last night and my heart was full. My heart was full because it was a tough stream. It was an emotional stream. But I felt like everybody showed their best side. And I went today and I was kind of looking around a little bit, and thinking, did anybody share this? Is that? And unfortunately, no, because it seems like people only want to share the negative stuff that they can knock you for. But if anybody did join us last night for the stream, you'll see why we appreciate everyone in here so much and why we defend ourselves against the negative connotations about the channel, because they're just lazy takes from people. And I'm not saying I'm not an arsehole sometimes. I can be. I'm aware of that. But I'm a good man, and this channel is run by good people with good intentions. Jorge or George, Craig, you're looking fit and strong. Thank you, dude. Thank you. I'm feeling healthier. Long way to go, but bit by bit, day by day, we'll get there. Thank you. Robbie saying Arsenal have more fans than Liverpool. I mean, look, I don't really know what to say, because there's nothing I can say that's going to be nice about that. There isn't. I'm known on here for having a couple of strong stances around certain things. I don't like Man City. I despise AFTV. So I try not to just say that negative. So there's nothing good I can say about that statement other than laughing it off as being more stupidity. But there are certain people that I think have set fan content back in it being taken seriously, and it's silly things like that just, I think, can lead to fan content getting belittled, because it's a ridiculous take in every sense of the word. Jay, thank you, man. Would you be open to offers on Frimpong? For me, yeah. I never understood the signing. I've been really consistent on the Jeremy Frimpong thing. I never understood the signing. Not because I don't rate Frimpong as a footballer. I never knew where he fits in for us. It always felt like an opportunistic signing. That it was a decent fee. Maybe it would help acclimatise Wirtz. And he's a lovely fella, Frimpong, by all accounts. I mean, he's so positive and, he's always got radiating positive energy. But I really don't know what he is for us, because I don't think he's a good enough right winger. I don't think he's a natural right back to us. And the one position he plays isn't suited to us. So, yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, I would be open to offers. But unless Andoni Iraola looks at him and thinks, yeah, there's a guy here that I can use here or here, maybe he'll think differently. But I did question the logic of the signing when we made it. And I think over the time Slot was here in that year, it kind of borne out to be as confusing as I thought it was going to be. Call me Shu said, "Hey Craig, love from Texas. Love right back to you, my friend. I have to say, I haven't been filled with this much excitement for a coach to get the best out of the likes of Wirtz and Kirkes. Some high octane football is back. Definitely that. Yep, definitely that. And I do think we are really going to see Kirkes kick on now. I think he's going to be full of confidence. And like I've said before, Iriola himself being a fullback by trade, he knows the position quite well. And I'd say the players will be licking their lips now, because they will have known how hard his Bournemouth teams were to play against. And they will know how those Bournemouth players got that level of fitness. So in one way, I'd say they're dreading the thoughts of pre-season, because it'll be back to the early KLOPP days where they work really, really hard. But of course, the theory and idea behind all of that is that then it comes to match time, and you're so used to high intensity training that the match feels like not easy work, but you can get through it because you've got that base level of fitness. So yeah, I'm excited as well. Excited for a little bit nervous. You're always nervous, but excited. Liverpool Army, thank you, bro, for gifting those memberships. Appreciate you. Jaden said we have a starting role for him on the right wing. PSG don't. Exactly that, Jaden. And I said this to you guys yesterday. If I was Edwards or Hughes or whoever sitting down to talk with Diamonde's camp, I'd be saying the same thing. Look, they've got Desiree Doué, 20-year-old kid who's won 2 Champions Leagues. They've got Kavisha Kvaratskhelia. Right now they've got Bradley Barcola. We need that right winger. We have the space to give you. We need the Mohamed Salah replacement, and we can give you that. So I hope that will stand for something. PSG, of course, can offer him Paris, whereas that is. They can offer him, a guarantee of trophies. But genuinely, developmentally, I think the progression will be better to come to us right now. And I think he can continue to get game time at a level that will allow him to continue to progress. That's my take on it. And I might be setting myself up for hurt, but I don't know. I just feel confident on this one. And I've nothing other than just gut feeling. And if we ended up with Bradley Barcola, I wouldn't be too displeased with that either. Because I know he isn't the finished product. I know he's frustrating. But he gets himself into some really good positions. And we just need chance creation across that front line. We need Rio. One thing that Rio's going to have to, and it'll be very interesting to see this season, is how quickly Rio can adapt to the counter-pressing and defensive side of the game that's going to be needed from players in an Andoni Iraola system. Because that is the one thing watching Rio play under Slot that I felt maybe under instruction or maybe not, but I did feel like the tracking back and that side of his game needs work, which is fine. Like, he's a kid, of course it needs work, but that is one thing that I would say. Before he becomes a regular every game best 11 player, these are some of the things I think he's going to need to work on. But him being over with the England team, training with Thomas Tuchel and that's going to be brilliant experience for Rio. And it certainly tells you about how highly he's been thought of within the England setup, that he's over there for this, pre-World Cup camp with them. That's going to be really good for him. And it's going to, again, pick up some more information, be around some more top players. And that can only benefit us as well. How many signings do you think we'll make before the World Cup? Well, we're talking 9 days now. I'd hope two, but it's tough to know how many irons we have in the fire at the minute, because the club, of course, have to get the IRAOLA deal sorted out. Now, that'll be at a stage where, at this point, Hughes can probably start to look in other directions and stuff and leave other people to sort that out. So, I think one or two before the World Cup. But even if they just pulled off the prime target, let's say they could figure out the Diamande stuff, that would be a huge boost. And then, a little bit more time to settle in and see how things go. When Connor gets a chance, can you remove the slot emojis? I will mention it to him, Mark. Yep, I will mention it to him. Right, really quickly, folks, don't forget, check out our, I would say brand new channel, but our repurposed channel, Anfield Agenda Extra. Now where you will see content from myself, from Connor, from Lewis, from Bence, from Chris, and lots of different types of content, likes of player profiles, things to expect under IRAOLA, stuff that I just don't have the time to make. I wish I did, and I'd love to be able to give you a tactical breakdown on stuff, but they're very labour-intensive videos to make, and, my job is to get through the news, do the watch-alongs and stuff, so having Lewis's and Bence's expertise in that is going to be brilliant for us, and we've already seen a big take-up on subscriptions already, so thank you to everyone that has given it a try, and tomorrow will be Lewis's second video on there, so if you haven't yet, do check it out. So how many signings, anyway, to get back to your question? 2, probably, before the World Cup will be my hope. Itachi, how are you? I'm good. So here we go, confirmed. Hype for IRAOLA. Your opinion on KONATE to Real Madrid. Any chance we bring in Hoyson? No, on the Hoyson thing. I'd love him, but no. My thoughts on it. Oh, see, I always want to be honest, Itachi, and sometimes when I'm honest, I get in trouble. So, here's my thoughts. I think he gave Liverpool a fuck you number, and knowing that he had PSG and Real Madrid options in the background. And I feel like he's not the first to do it, and he probably won't be the last to do it. But I could be barking up the wrong tree. I just think he was chancing his arm with us to get to bonus structures that maybe felt unrealistic, and the club got to a point where they thought, no, we've put our best foot forward and we don't want to be held over a barrel. That's how I see it, but I'm not inside it, so maybe I have my reading of that wrong, but do I believe the hypothesis that he played a blinder here because he watched what happened with Trent and learned from it? I mean, it's not too much of a leap to get to that point, is it? Where you think, well, he's seen, if he just keeps stum here, plays coy, lets the season finish, then is it? He'd probably save himself a lot of headaches. That's it. I feel a little bit annoyed, but not anywhere near to the levels of the Trent situation, because I don't hold him in as high a regard I don't think he's an irreplaceable player at all. Shane said, best of luck to those starting the Leaving Cert tomorrow. I was there not too long ago. Stay calm and take each exam as they come. Absolutely. And also, don't forget there's always other avenues. You know, if you don't get the points you want, you can always go the long way around. There's always ways to get to where you want to be. And some of the most successful people I know weren't hugely academical. So don't get disheartened. Just go in there and give it your best shot, as Shane said. Put your best foot forward and know that you've done as much as you can. Charlie, my sister always liked IRAOLA, especially with him coming from the Basque country, who are the Irish of Spain. Good to see you back on YouTube. Thank you, Charlie. There's a lot to like about the Basque region. There's a lot to like about IRAOLA. I love the fact as well that, you know, he has that Marcelo Bielsa influence, because that man's a genius to me. And anyone that's worked under him, I think, is going to have a very good grounding in football. And IRAOLA seems to be a football obsessive, which I love. I love that. So let me go through some more of the stuff from today. This comes from Liverpool's own. They said, Bundesliga expert Kevin Hatchhart insists that Liverpool never considered Xabi Alonso because his style does not match the high-intensity style of Jurgen Klopp, and that Andoni Iraola is a much closer fit. This idea that Liverpool missed out on Xabi Alonso because they sacked Slot too late is wide of the mark. He's a great coach and a Liverpool legend, but if you want aggressive, fast-paced, up-and-at-'em football, he's not your guy. Iraola much closer to Klopp's Volgas style. Now, that is exactly the information that I had. So I said to you guys, from what I can garner, it wasn't that they didn't like Xabi Alonso. It was nothing to do with the fact he went to Madrid. It was purely down to the brand of football and the change away from the brand of football we want to get back to. So that to me makes a lot of sense, because it backs up what people were telling me, and it's common sense, because Alonso isn't a gegenpressing type coach. He's far more in the mold of a Pep Guardiola, somebody who wants possession. Almost, you could nearly say, to a lesser extent, maybe Slot as well, although Slot probably isn't as fulsome in his system as Alonso would be. But to me, that's true. And think about it logically, it makes sense. You know, it would be a huge connection with the fan base straight away, of course, for Alonso. But stylistically, I know he's adaptable. But Iraola, Hoeneß, those type of coaches, even Nagelsmann, are far closer to the identity that we once had and want to get back to. Did you ever spell boobless in a calculator? Yeah, dude, of course. Yeah, definitely. All that shit back in the school days, man, of course. Even to this day, dude, I'm 44 years of age and I still carry on like a 7 or 8 year old sometimes. So I'm being generous by saying sometimes. Most of the time is probably true. Like the Armagh stuff, there isn't probably 2 hours that goes by in this house where I'm not giving Sabrina some Armagh joke. Hope my mother-in-law's not watching. Love you, Cookie. I like the Tyler Adams show. He's a proper shithouse and bulldog defensively, said Mulder. I'd be worried about his distribution, but he's a proper destroyer and slots between the centre-backs in possession. I am fully behind whoever the new coach and the recruitment team thinks fits the system. It's a blank slate for me. I talked yesterday about the players going into a blank slate. Well, as a fan, Iraola's coming in with a blank slate for me. None of my hang-ups or frustrations that came from the last coaching setup are going to be carried forward. It's a fresh start, and we go again. Does it worry you IRAOLA's only signed a 2-year deal? No. No, and I'll tell you why. From the club side, they should probably know early enough if it's something they're going to want to roll over. But from his side, he's coming to Liverpool Football Club. Now, I might be a bit naive here, but that is the creme de la creme. Like, you're at the top table. Like, you were where you would dream to be when you start your coaching journey. Like, if you said to any coach start now, name me 10 clubs that you would dream of getting to coach someday, you're going to hear the list of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Liverpool, Manchester United, Bayern Munich, Paris Saint-Germain these days. Like, so he's at the very top table. So I don't really worry about him wanting away. I feel like if it's good, he'll be renewed quickly. And, you know, he might have his own reasoning for the 2-year thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll hear more on this in the future. But no, it doesn't worry me. Doesn't worry me, no. Even if we sell Maka, how do we start a midfield of Dom, Graven, Wirtz? If we buy a legitimate 6, we need there's an odd man out. Well, we need to get out of thinking just in starting 11 terms. Is one thing I would say, Aaron. There are some uncertainties here that we're not sure of, but again, I don't know how. Let give you an example. I don't know how IRAOLA will look at Ryan Gravenberch and what he sees. Does he see somebody who he wants getting into the opposition box more? Does he see somebody that he wants sitting a little bit deeper? Because he isn't a DM, and we do need that. But outside of the DM, honestly, I'm calm about our midfield. Like, if Maka went, we brought in a DM and Jones stayed, I'd be fine with all of that. And I think numerically we'd be fine in the middle of the park. We just don't have a specialist. And I want us to get a specialist, number 6. Outside of that, I'm really calm about it. But as fans, we need to stop just thinking about starting 11s. Because I don't like a lot of what Arteta talks about. But I do like when he uses the phrase finishers. Because that's something I think football is embracing more now. That with the sheer volume of games, the physicality and the exertion needed in them, those last 30 minutes can be vital in games. You know, rugby utilises it far better than football if you're looking at people that come on to see out games, put in fresh legs. And sometimes you need people to keep battering away on the door, make the door creak at the hinges before somebody else comes and kicks the door down. So yeah, we need to think squad depth wise, and we need to think about having multiple options. And if plan A doesn't work, how do we get to plan B? And who do we utilise for this? And who's got the attributes for that? So much stuff to get through, but yeah, we're actually fine numerically in the middle. We just don't have a DM. But I think we've got more than enough midfielders. I hope he gives Elliott a chance. I know maybe Liverpool want to move him on, but I honestly think he could do to Harvey Elliott what he did to Kluivert. I think he could make Harvey Elliott the player he turned Justin Kluivert into. I really do. Wild Times, thank you so much for your kind words. Appreciate you. Darren said Elliott's awful. I disagree, Darren. I'm not saying he's the best player in world football, mate, but he's a tidy footballer. He's a Liverpool lad, as in a fan. And I think I've always viewed him as somewhere between a 10 and a 7 with regards to the type of player. Like when he first came into Liverpool, I had these visions of him becoming our David Silva type player. You know, that player that finds pockets of space. And if you go back and watch Harvey Elliott playing, that is something he excels at. Is just finding those little pockets of space to be available for the pass. So yeah, I disagree respectfully with you on him being crap. I think he's very good, but I also understand if the new coach doesn't feel like he fits in either, or maybe if he feels that, well, I need to get away here. Where are we? This one. Aisha said, it doesn't annoy me that KONATE is going to Real Madrid, but another player going on a free really grates on me. IRAOLA seems like a sound guy. Very excited. I totally can understand the free player part annoying you. It just doesn't feel logical to hear that we're a self-sustaining club and that every penny made is reinvested and we have a certain model of doing things. That doesn't really tally up with letting players walk out the door for nothing. Now, it's one thing letting a 34, 35-year-old walk out the door for nothing, but letting players at 26, 27 walk out the door for nothing, to walk straight into another super team like Real Madrid, another super club, it doesn't exactly scream joined up thinking, and it doesn't really feel a natural bedfellow to the way we're led to believe the club is being. And I'd love to chat with Mo Chatra a little bit more about this, and maybe I can reach out to him behind the scenes and see if I can pick his brain, because unless there's some accounting reason that, us normal people don't understand, it really does feel like we've shit the bed in that regard. But again, where do we lie the blame? Because it would be unfair to put it on Hughes and Edwards, because they kind of walked into a mess. So I don't know who to feel frustrated about, but I do know it can't continue. And this is why I've said Szoboszlai has to be done. And this is why I don't want Costas to walk out the door for free in a year's time. I don't want Gomez to walk out the door for free in a year's time. We'll have Virgil going out the door. We'll have Alisson going out the door. Just start fucking selling players. Sell them. Sell Costas. Sell Gomez. Sell the players that we know don't have long-term futures at our club and are near the end of their contracts, and bring in players for the next cycle, rather than just saying, well, we let them fill out the last year because we didn't do enough recruiting and we've left ourselves too much work to do, because that's what it feels like. He's getting the door part of that Ballon d'Or. I would love to know if he feels that it was the right decision. No World Cup, no trophy, his third different coach in the year has just been appointed, and it's fucking Mourinho. You'd have to wonder, like, if he looks at it and thinks, shit, did I get this one wrong? But maybe he's happy. Maybe him and his bae are out there in Madrid living their best lives. Double L Lion said, Craig, I'd sell Macca for a tenner after a season. It's my dad's funeral in 2 weeks and it's red code. Thank you, chat, for helping me. Love you all. Well, I'm sorry about your dad, of course, mate. Hope the funeral goes as well as it can. And on the Macca thing, yeah, I go back and forth and think, is this the new reality for Macca, or was it a bad season? Because I might be wrong on this, but I think, did he not come into the season playing catch up on fitness or carrying a knock or something? Then, of course, that new baby. Yeah, I just think if we have to attack the transfer market in an aggressive, proactive stance and need to raise capital and raise some money, he's one of the few, I think, looking around that we could both command a hefty fee for and make a logical reasoning as to why it would be okay to sell. So if you got 65, 70 million quid there, I think bring in a younger player. On the Jones one, where are you guys at with Curtis Jones now? Where are your heads at there? What do you think should happen with him? Eddie said, June isn't my favourite time of the year. Lost my wife 9 years ago on the 16th of this month, and you've been there through the whole time. Well, I'm so sorry, man. I'm not joking here, Eddie, but I actually sit up at night sometimes worrying about what would happen if I didn't have Sabrina in my life, because I'm closer to her than any human being on this earth, and she's the person I trust most on this earth and lean on most on this earth. So I can't imagine the pain you went through there, Eddie. I really can't. But it's been, and I mean this, mate, it's been a pleasure getting to chat with you. Even when it was me saying to you, we know, Eddie, we know you don't like Ernest Law. I mean it, mate. It's been a pleasure. And, June for me is a slightly more upbeat month, as it's my wife's birthday month. So, I always try to think positively in that sense about the month. But we're here, my man. And if you want to come in on the 16th, have a chat, reminisce or anything about your good lady wife, it'd be our pleasure to chat with you, my friend. I can see IRAOLA giving the youngster a chance. Definitely agree. Definitely, definitely, definitely. And filling them with confidence as well. Because how many times do we sit on here and say, how must the young players feel now with Slot there, when not only are they not getting utilised, but you've got people like Calvin Ramsey hearing that we've got better options at right back, even if those options aren't right backs. It must have been damning. And there was articles the other day suggesting that the likes of Trainee and others were going to consider their future, and the way the Tyler Morton situation went just feels frustrating as well, because he never really got the chance. But I think, yes, IRAOLA will give those guys a chance, but I think in a similar way to Jurgen, because there is a way you can do it and mitigate some of that risk. And it's usually the League Cup, the early FA Cup rounds. I would say even you could get away with it in a couple of Champions League games. There's always one or two in there where you think, yeah, that these fixtures should be manageable, particularly the home ones, that you supplement the first teamers with some of the exciting young players. What I hate seeing is a youngster getting thrown into a team that's in trouble or a team that's in a mess, because then you're expecting them to become the saviour. And that should never be the case. You should only ever expect bonus stuff from young players coming in. Not expect them to come in to be the hero to bail us out or to stop the rot. That's an unhealthy way to breathe through young players for me, and too much pressure. So yeah, I think he'll manage it well. IRAOLA can get us playing like or better than PSG. Well, I think he'll certainly get us playing more like we're used to, with regards to the work rate, the effort, the off the ball work. I can see IRAOLA switching between a back three and a back four depending on the match. My dream. That's how I see Frimpong fitting in. Also, thanks for last night's stream. Much love to you and the fam and community. Well, thank you, mate. As I said, last night was, I had hoped people would clip that up after the stream. I sat here and I thought, I hope people clip that up. Not because you want an attaboy, but sometimes I feel like the best way to counteract the false news about our channel is by showing the real reason a lot of people are here for the channel, which is that sense of community and caring for each other. But on the back three thing, do you mean in the same way that like Alonso would switch to a back three, or do you mean it in the way that Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, and I guess you can say Arne Slot as well, would have the fullback invert to almost become an extra midfielder? I don't know if you mean it in that way or just a flat switching to a back three. Can Isak keep up IRAOLA's training regime? Well, let's bloody hope so, mate. Let's hope so. But yeah, let's hope so, because we have to get the best out of him this season. And some of that's going to be getting him the ammunition, getting him the crosses, the food to go in and fight in the 6-yard box for, and making sure that 125 million looks like money well spent. Because this season was always going to be a tough one for him. But I think, look, honest assessment of it, it was even a bit subpar for the low expectations I had for the first season, because of the extra injury he had and how disjointed we were as a team and how we lacked real pace in wide areas. it just never felt like there was a natural understanding of what we were going to do there. Certainly feel more excited about it now. And look at what he did with Dominic Solanke. IRAOLA, I mean. Look at how he was able to kick Dominic Solanke on and how he was able to turn him into a prolific scorer. I think we'll see Isak get back to the Newcastle type Isak. Thanks for your opinion on KONATE. With an emotional rollercoaster in the last 2 weeks, feeling a little upbeat now and fully back. IRAOLA. Yeah, it was a mad few days. It really was, because as much as it wasn't a shock they fired Slaw, it kind of all came about a little bit quicker than I thought it was going to. And I was playing catch up with my thoughts for a few days because I went into work mode straight away, and it was only really Saturday night that it really hit me. You're like, shit, it's done. He's gone. Fresh start. And I can't lie, I absolutely felt a huge sense of anticipation and excitement about the new season that wasn't there beforehand. And I hated all of that, by the way. I hated every minute of it. There's nothing more demoralising than feeling like you can't even look forward to the weekend's games because you know more than likely you're going to be frustrated by what you're going to see. Only problem with Tyler Adams is that he's injury prone. Look at his record. Oh, I have recollections of Tyler Adams missing quite a bit of game time, but I don't know. Like I'm not no idea if Tyler Adams comes in or not, or is even in the mix. But I do remember his injuries. All right, for sure. Hi Craig, your take on Pep Linders? Um, my take. Well, okay. I think I have an answer for this one that's not going to get me in trouble because I was kind of thinking about it earlier on. So I was reading the Echo, and I was in the comment section yesterday, and I was looking at a conversation, and Pep Linders happened to come up in a thread that I was reading on, and there was surprisingly a lot of Liverpool fans in that chat that said that they would take him back happily. I would not be one of them people. I would consider him the slitheriest of slithery people, the snakiest of snaky people, the shittiest of shithousers, and flat out liar, quite frankly. And I am that petty, and I am that vindictive, and I am that annoyed because of where he went. And I can't get away from that. I absolutely, with every fibre of my being as a sports person, a football fan, and a lover of the game, despise Manchester City and everything of the modern version of that football club and what they've done to the game, the impact they've had, what they've taken away from other fans, and how long it's taken for them to be punished. And to see Pep Linders, the guy who was in the trenches, fighting against all of that at a club that were doing it with no question marks about where the money came from, how legitimate deals were, to see him run off and join the antithesis of everything that our club was about, I found incredibly disturbing, is probably the word I'd use. You don't write a book called Our Identity and be in the trenches with Klopp, fighting against that and losing by a point here, a point there, to then run off and join the enemy. If he had gone anywhere else, and I literally mean anywhere, I'd have probably even been less annoyed if he ended up at United. It's the fact that he said he wasn't going to work as a number two, and he ran to them lot. I can't be doing with that. I'm sorry. That is, yeah, nope, nope. And I remember at the time when I said it first, I thought, right, well, we've seen Kloppo in the past talk about his take on certain things like Trent and this. And I remember saying, I don't want to hear from Kloppo on this one because I don't need to or want to be told how to feel about this one because I'm perfectly at ease with how I feel about it. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. Scratching Claimers, thank you, bro. You said, I would sell Macca. Liverpool is a big club, but we are not Madrid or Barca. More so, we can't compete with wages they can offer, and UK taxes is a turn-off. Well, also, for me with Macca, the trick to selling players at times is to sell them at the right moment. And a great example of this for me is the sale of Fernando Torres. Because whether it was accidental or not, things start catching up with him injury-wise, and he never really shone in the same way there he did with us. And I wonder what the data would show into Alexis McAllister's last year versus his previous years around his levels of recovery, fitness, ground covered, all these other things. And I get the suspicion that that's why we may see a sale there. That and the contract situation, the fact there's been no, contact there about a new deal. All of it to me makes me feel like this could be the right time. And maybe one of the last times to command a big fee as well for him. So yeah, that's what I think there. That a 65 million quid, 70 million quid deal that allowed us to reinvest in another hungry, young, energetic, ballsy, pitbull type midfielder wouldn't go astray. And you need those type of players. You need that freshness and that energy to play the type of football that IRAOLA will want to play. Yeah, you did hear the voice crack. Yeah, as I told you, I've been sick all week. So, yeah, my throat's in tatters. But yeah, it definitely did crack there. So let me just clear my throat 1 sec. I should really protect my instrument a little bit more. Listening in the background, but in Africa where I live, Arsenal and United are absolutely bigger than Liverpool. I think it depends where in the world you are. In Africa, I probably wouldn't argue with you. Arsenal have always had a huge following. I think maybe all the way back to the Adebayor days and that in Africa. But there's fairly easy ways to look at this. There are metrics out there for social media interactions, shirt sales, and I don't think it's questionable that Arsenal have more fans than Liverpool. I really don't. And I'm sure there are metrics that can be used to show it. But what you've never seen Liverpool need to do is Photoshop images to make crowds look bigger than they were. And I've also seen some images of our parades being used as their parades. So I don't think it's even close, to be honest with you. I think around the world, United probably have more of a fan base than Liverpool. I would probably say that. But after that, it's Liverpool. And I believe that absolutely. And then apart from all of that shit, Arsenal aren't even in the same league as us as a club because they don't have the pedigree. They haven't won a European trophy. How can you even consider yourself a big club if you have no European pedigree? I'm genuine. I'm not trying to be a dickhead, but that's the measure. That's the yardstick. You don't have any. We've 6. And then, we can talk about other trophies on top of that, like other European trophies. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. Liverpool Football Club are, to me, top 5, top 6 football brand anywhere in the world. But also, all this stuff is kind of irrelevant, doesn't it? Like, it's like my dad stronger than your dad kind of shit. Like, who cares? If you're an Arsenal fan, enjoy Arsenal. If you're a Liverpool fan, enjoy Liverpool. If you're a Man City fan, enjoy 115 charges, motherfuckers. Shane, just realised Ederson is here we go. I think he's a decent player, so not unhappy, but we need 2 more midfielders, one of them being i.e. Tonali. I've been a fan of Ederson for a few years, and I wanted Liverpool to sign him. So I think you've got a bargain, in all honesty, Shane. Yeah, what was it, 30 something million quid? I can't remember the exact number, but yeah, I think you've got yourself a good player and a really good fee. So Inter pushing for Marco Palestra, but it's an open race with Premier League clubs also keen. Teams mentioned are Newcastle, Manchester City, and then they say, let's see if Liverpool enter the race. So surely if Newcastle are interested in Palestra, that must mean they're expecting to lose Tino Livramento, which you would probably think would be where Manchester City come into the mix. But I mean, I wouldn't say no to Tino Livramento at Liverpool if he was an option. If Newcastle were considering a sale to look for somebody else, I mean, I wouldn't say no. I'd take Tino Livramento at Liverpool. This from Romano as well. Today, Liverpool tried right up until the very last moment to see whether there was any possibility of continuing talks and negotiations for Dumfries and to keep the door open, including the arrival of IRAOLA. The answer was no, because Dumfries chose Real Madrid. So that concerns me. And it concerns me because of the level of finances involved. Does this mean we can expect Liverpool to cheap out on a right back? But as fans, it's tough for us to have the conversation because we don't know the extent of the Bradley situation. So we've got no idea how long we can expect him out for or what the extent of that problem is. So when you see we're going after a 30-year-old like Dumfries, or we were going after, you think that's somewhat short-term thinking and for a reasonable fee. But it worries me in another way because it feels almost as if it's not getting the full attention that it should command as an issue. But either way, we didn't get him, so it's kind of a moot point. We're going to have to figure it out and go again. Anxious Time said, can we please keep Chiesa and give him a full season? Let me ask that as a question, because I'll give you a take on it, but let me put the poll out there. So 86%, by the way, of over 3,000 people said that we would sell Maka for the right price. So, should we keep Chiesa? For the last poll of the night, should we keep Chiesa? Here's my take on it. I'd make a decision late on Chiesa on whether we should keep him or not. Because right now he's an option on the right, he's an option through the middle, and we don't have enough options. Do I think he's ever going to be the Federico Chiesa that we hope for? No, I don't. But if IRAOLA thinks he can get a tune out of him, I wouldn't be against it for 1 second to keep him at the club. But preference-wise, I think if you said, Craig, you can have Chiesa and Diamonde or Bowen and Diamonde, I'm saying hello, Jared. So that's my thought process on it. And the reason I said I'd leave it late is because that allows us to look after our side of things and see what the lay of the land is, rather than selling a player and then having to replace him and scrambling around trying to find somebody to come in. I would leave that one till later in the window personally. And it isn't out of anybody not liking Chiesa, by the way. I've very, very few times have I seen a player more excited to come in to join the club. And his signing day vlog was one of my favourites. Loved it. He just loved how much he knew about the club, loved how much he was excited about being here, and was so hopeful that we would see even glimpses of the Chiesa that we knew. But 2 years later, I think it's asking and expecting a lot for him to get back to the Chiesa of 24, 25. And I mean, years of age there. And it'd be another interesting one to see who made the decision to sign him and why. Because it never felt like it was joined up thinking that Slot wanted. It didn't feel like it was one that Slot was pushing for. Bradley said IRAOLA equals happy Lego man. Arteta choker equals angry Lego man. There you go. Love it, Bradley. Love it. Liverbird Army said, I'd like Curtis to stay. I like him as a player. Plus, he's the only scouser in the team. I see him as a future captain, and under IRAOLA, I think he'll flourish and come into his own. He's a feisty bugger. I would look exactly that, mate. If IRAOLA and Jones, have a conversation, and Curtis thinks, yeah, okay, I'll get a crack at this. Sound. I think he is a slightly underappreciated player, but I could also see why he might want to go to Italy and think, well, let me do a Scott McTominay here. Let me go over there and show I am as good as I think I am, and that I can be a difference maker, and I can be the guy. So yeah, I'm easy on it, but of course it has to be decided this summer one way or the other. Because again, he could walk out on a free in a year. So we can't let that happen to a homegrown Scouser. That has to be sorted out this summer. But I'm happy if he stays. I won't say I'm happy if he goes, but I'd understand it if he went. But I'm with you, I think. I would ideally like him to stay because good age profile, knows the club, isn't lacking in confidence. And the biggest compliment I could ever give Curtis Jones is he never hides. Never hides on a football pitch. Always wants the ball, always shows for it, and always wants to make something happen. Yes, sometimes I think he keeps the ball too long, but he's not a coward. He's a brave footballer, and I have a lot of time for those type of players. Dumfries heading to Madrid now. They must not be happy with Trent. Would you take him back? I think it's probably more a case of a Carvajal replacement than not happy with Trent. Personally, would I take Trent back? The biggest problem I would have that with the Trent situation is the fee we'd have to pay. No way do I ever want Liverpool letting a player walk out the door for nothing. I know we got 10 million euro, but ultimately it was for nothing. And buy them back. No. Not the way that went. Not with him being a Scouser. No. The day he left the club, to me, I thought we'd never see him back because of everything I've just said. But if he did come back, for whatever reason, it would depend to me on how sincere I thought it felt, but I think that one hurt me quite a bit as a fan. I can't lie, it did. It fucking hurt because it felt pretty duplicitous, and I can't speak on behalf of Scousers. I'm not a Scouser. But if he was a dub and it was a Dublin club, I know exactly how I'd feel. And I would feel betrayed. And I would feel annoyed. So to me, best let sleeping dogs lie. I wouldn't be looking to bring him back in. But again, it's all hypotheticals, isn't it? Next season, centre-back partnership, VVD with Leone Jacquet. My best guess would be Jacquet would be the one getting the start from the start of the season. Bowen is way too old. I don't think he is, though, Lord Kempo, because I'll try to explain it the way I did the other day, but let me just come back to you, mate, in 1 minute. I just want to give Padja a proper comment here. For me, mate, I think it'll be Jacquet, but I do think we need another 26, 27-year-old centre-back brought in. So I'd sell Gomez, partly because he's got a year to go, and partly because I think we could put somebody else in the other centre-back position. But I think Jacquet, the answer to me is Nico Schlotterbeck, by the way. That's the answer to the riddle at centre-back. Bring in Schlotterbeck, then he succeeds Virgil on the left side eventually, and we have young centre-backs, and then you can reevaluate whether you want to go and trigger Kwanzaa's release clause in a year's time. And to get back to Lord Kempo's thing about Bowen, I think that experience would counteract the youthfulness if you were to have Rio and, let's say, Diamonde. I think a 29, 30-year-old Bowen, who I would call a young 29-year-old or 30-year-old with lots of energy and versatility and experience and hunger, I think that would be a good foil and a good balance to the youthfulness in the attack, personally. But it would depend on the number. It would depend on the number. Like, if it was 30, 40 million, yes. If it was above that, no. Because there's no resale value in it. But that has always been my dream for the right. As soon as West Ham went down, my head said, go get Diamonde and Bowen, and we're laughing. Get those two, and we're good to go. We should have given Arne Slot 1 more year, truthfully. I don't think so. And I'll give you my best answer why, but you've put in a second super chat, so I want to read that one out as well. I think we underrate Cody Gakpo. He's really good. So, sorry, that's Bradley's one. I don't think I underrate Cody Gakpo. I think I've been pretty fair about how I've described this season with Cody Gakpo. I think some people have been expecting him to do things that he's never done. But he does chip in with goals and assists, and I think he's a decent player to have around the squad. But on the Slot thing, for me, no, he shouldn't, because he showed no ability to turn it around at all. And that can't be lost here. Throughout the whole course of the season, he never once looked close to figuring it out or to turning it around. And I don't see it would have changed at all going into the third year. And yeah, I don't know. Because it wasn't just a one season problem for me with Slot. It was a March the season before to the end of this season problem. And you can go back and watch my streams back then. I had doubts all the way back then, and I called out things that I thought were a problem. And it just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So no, I'm definitely in the camp of he got more than enough time, and it wasn't going to work. With all the best will and the best intentions in the world, it wasn't going to work because he'd lost the crowd. Bowen has skills, balls, and finishing. Yes, please, for Bradley. Yes, please, for me. Now I'm just starting to think you're just on a trolling mission, mate, to be honest with you. So consider this warning number 1, Reese. Because I don't think anybody that isn't being held against their will would say that with a straight face, because it's insulting to Klopp. because Klopp absolutely inherited a far worse team and brought us to where we are. So like I said, Reese, that's first warning, because 3 comments in a row, all of them trying to rage bait, you know. You could have disguised it a little bit better. Lord Kembo, Craig, he's baiting you. Well, do I look like I'm angry? Come on, give me a bit of credit. You know, I've been doing this long enough. I can tell when people are on a wind up or not. But like, whether they try or not, I'm not being baited because I'm not being angry about it. I'm just trying to be. I take every initial thing at face value and just try to give an honest answer to it. And that's what I was doing there as well, was just being honest about it. Because there are people who genuinely thought Slot should have got a third year. Like, you've even former players who thought maybe should have had a third year. But, you know, for me, it went on longer than I would have kept him in a job. I would have had him out here by Christmas. Right, let's run through some more news. Let's keep going, because there's a few bits I haven't got round to yet. So let me just run through these. So let's talk about this attacker from Lille. I probably should have brought this up earlier, but I got a bit sidetracked. So this report here, and credit LFC Transfer Room for their post, said Lille are demanding €70 million to part ways with Matthias Fernandes Pardo, who has recently been called up by Belgium for the World Cup. Liverpool, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund and several Premier League clubs are showing strong interest in the Lille forward. Now, I think it was Moby Hakonek said that he's a really good player, but lads, I don't know anything about this lad from Lille. So, anybody in the chat that has watched much of Mr. Fernandes Pardo, who has a view, should he be a name Liverpool are looking at? What type of profile is he? Is he fast? You know, there's a lot. I know nothing about him until I seen his name today. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. That was €70 million as well, Ben, by the way. So it wasn't £70 million. It was €70 million, which I think is just over £61 million, something like that. Here's an interesting little coincidence. ESPN UK posted this. They said the wildcard theories have already begun. 2004, Arsenal win the league. Liverpool sack their manager. Liverpool hired a Spaniard. Liverpool win the Champions League. 2026, Arsenal win the league. Liverpool sack their manager. Liverpool hire a Spaniard. ... Will history repeat itself? Let's see. Sam Maguire, big shout out to Sam. I know Sam a little bit and think the world of him and his work. Sam said, I'm told that Tommy Elphick will be a pivotal appointment for Liverpool, will act as a buffer between the tactically obsessed genius that is Andoni Iraola and the players. Dominic King of The Telegraph has said Thiago Alcantara is said to be keen on linking up with Iraola at Liverpool. Then we got the confirmation as well about the full pre-season schedule. So Liverpool will take on Sunderland at Geodis Park in Nashville, Saturday, July 25th, which will be an 11 p.m. kickoff over here. Wrexham at Yankee Stadium, New York on Thursday, July the 30th. Then we play Leeds United at Soldier Field in Chicago on Sunday, August the 2nd. Monaco at Anfield on Sunday, August the 9th, which will be most likely Andoni Iraola's first game at Anfield. And then a really interesting friendly actually has come up for Sunday, August the 16th, which is Como. Liverpool going to be entertaining Como at Anfield on Sunday, August the 16th. So that is the pre-season schedule confirmed for the Reds. So again, first game is going to be July 25th and the final preseason game August 16th. And again, we said this at the start of the stream, but let's go back to it now. According to Jan Åge Fjørtoft, Liverpool talked to Jurgen Klopp to get input on who the next manager should be. and that makes sense. So yeah, happy on that one. John Barnes doesn't have cancer, Nigel. John Barnes previously had cancer and it got through it. And by the way this was posted by one outlet in particular is fucking shocking. And I sent this to Keane earlier on. But one outlet posted that John Barnes has cancer along with two Liverpool former pros. He doesn't. John Barnes had cancer and thankfully has received treatment and has got the all clear on it. But the way it's been posted by some people, it's not even clickbait because it's just wrong. So good to hear that he's got the all clear and he's through it. But yeah, he said himself that his kids had made him go get checked out, and then he found out that he did have it, but he's clear of it now. And of course, we wish him continued full health, and of course the very best to King Kenny and to Mr. Kevin Keegan as well. Again, Cesc Fabro Como team will be a big test for IRAOLA and Liverpool. Do you know what? I haven't watched any of Como under Cesc Fabregas because I don't really pay too much attention to Serie A, but certainly done really well. Got them into Europe, and it'll be interesting. Yeah, it'll certainly be an entertaining game. Last one as well before the Prime gets underway. Should go for Foden, but he would fit so well for us. Might want to leave City to secure international football again. I don't know, with Bernardo Silva leaving City, maybe he'd feel like he might get more opportunities now. I suppose that would come down to the conversations that he has with Enzo Maresca. What would you say with KONATE transfer to Madrid? We touched on it earlier on. It kind of is what it is, but it's just annoying seeing somebody leave your football club on a free in the prime of their career and walk into another big club. You don't like to see it. I don't have any real emotional frustration about it outside of it's not great to see the club letting players go out the door and letting contracts get to that point, but he's one of those players for me that you're happy if he stays and you don't lose any sleep if he goes. He's not a difference maker to me. He's a good player and on his day can be a damn good player, but I won't lose a minute's sleep. That's the honest answer. Any news on Nico Williams or Schlotterbeck? Nope. The only things that have been doing the rounds about Schlotterbeck really is that apparently he said to Wirtz at the German national team camp that he likes the idea of coming, but I don't know, mate. It just feels like a no-brainer for me because we have to replace Virgil in a year. Why not do it now? Not replace Virgil, but why not bring in Schlotterbeck now? And, because Virgil might not be able to play as many games. And maybe keeping Virgil a little bit fresher and having somebody to rotate in there would get Virgil back to a higher standard again. So I just think it would make a lot of sense for a very reasonable fee to go get Schlotterbeck. Lewis Kumat scored for Wales tonight. Excited to see some of the academy players potentially getting some first team minutes under IRAOLA. Thoughts? Yeah, excited to see them as well. Genuinely, the club have brought in some good talented young players in recent years, and if you can show them a pathway to the first team, it makes your job in attracting them to the club easier down the line again. But if you don't see a pathway through, then it becomes an issue. Tell Arne Riise Slot that he's no KLOPP comparison. Tell Arne Riise Slot that he's no KLOPP comparison. Yeah, it's a ridiculous comparison, isn't it? It annoyed me enough when Slot was talking about it in the same way that it happened at Jurgen, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, sorry, mate. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to say goodnight to you. We've done 2 hours and 10 minutes tonight. Appreciate you all. Unfortunately, like I said, tomorrow was supposed to be day one in the new studio, but we are waiting on a small bit of equipment that let us down. So we will be ready to go by Monday. But I'll see you guys tomorrow. Connor will be here in the morning. And as always, appreciate you dropping in. Let's check on our poll. Oh, lads, it's 50-50. We needed to go 1 more percent. Somebody give it a vote. Should we keep Chiesa? It is 50-50. You know what? Maybe that's the best place to leave it at 50-50. Shows how split fans are. So, yes, should we keep Chiesa? 50% yes, 50% no. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you tomorrow. Appreciate you as always. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Drop a like.